Hey Fae folk, welcome and welcome back. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about some dolls this year that I just don't think really hit. As we all know, 2024 is coming to a close. We're about to enter the new year, which means that it's time to look back upon the doll releases from 2024 and talk about which ones I think were the worst and which ones I think were the best. If you've been here for a while, you know that I always like to make my last video of the year the top 10 dolls of the year. I just feel like there's like good vibes to ending the year on a positive video, right? Like I always want my last upload of the year to be looking back at like all of the best dolls, just because I think that that's like a good way to start off a new year. But I obviously also have to give my opinions on which were the worst dolls. So that is what we are going to be doing today. I'm going to be giving you my top 10 list for the dolls that I think were the worst releases that came out of 2024. Of course, these are just going to be my opinions, obviously. So if you guys disagree, it's totally chill, not a big deal. And definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I will say before we get into it, this year was especially difficult. I don't know if there were just a lot of releases happening in general this year or just a lot of releases that I like felt something about, because a lot of the time I feel like releases are kind of just like, oh yeah, like it's whatever, like they're very midline for me. But this year, I had such a hard time coming up with just the top 10, both for the positive and the negatives. So this was a struggle to get through, but I think I've narrowed it down to what I think are the 10 worst dolls of the year. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So obviously we're going to be starting at number 10 and then working our way up, because what is the fun in a video like this if there's no suspense? So 10th place for me is going to be the Hocus Pocus Skeletor dolls. Yes, I know this is technically 3 dolls, but like they came in a pack, okay, so I'm just considering it as one item, I guess you might say. And these are lower on the list just because while I do think they're bad, I don't think that they are entirely bad. They definitely have good points to them. I did make a whole video on this release on my thoughts on the designs. Basically, like the short version is I do think that they did a good job with the face sculpts for the most part. The hair isn't bad, but the clothes are really where this comes in and just is like absolutely lacking in my opinion. There's just a lot of plastic going on. The fabrics seem very simple, very cheap, and it's not a vibe, in my opinion. Honestly, the reason that they made it onto the list, because again, there were so many dolls to consider, like, I don't know if they would have made it on except for the fact that people have been like having these dolls arrive, people who ordered them. And I've seen some amazing customs already on Instagram of people who have sewn them new outfits. And comparing like, obviously I understand like there's a big difference between what an individual person who is willing to spend whatever on a doll can make versus like what a company can make because the company wants profit. I don't care. Okay. I'm so sorry. I just like don't. Seeing what these dolls could have been dressed in made it harder to ignore to me how they looked as they came out. So I think that might be what bumped them up to 10th spot and like put them onto the list. I still obviously don't think that they are the worst dolls of the year because 10th place is far from first place on this list, but I do think that they needed to mention, especially because I feel like so many Hocus Pocus fans were so excited about the news for this release. And obviously some people like them, and that's totally chill. If you like these, that's wonderful. I'm glad you're happy. But I also know there was a lot of disappointment. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like these are fairly justified in being in 10th place. I'm just now realizing that actually like several of these entries are referencing kind of more than one doll. Hopefully that's okay with you guys. So technically speaking, the doll that I'm putting into 9th place is the Magic Mixies Pixlings Supreme doll, Skylar. Yeah, not super. I think just looking at the stock photo, you can see that this doll doesn't have the best quality. I mean, you can see how that fabric feels, you know? Like, even from a photo, you can kind of get the vibes. I don't own this doll, but I do own another one of the Pixling Supremes. I got Luna, and Luna is honestly the real reason that Skylar is on this list. Skylar made it on rather than Luna because I think she has a much worse design, but my experience unboxing Luna is what made me dislike these, which like hurts to say as a Pixlings fan, but it was so bad. I did film an unboxing for her and I ended up scrapping that video, not because I like didn't want to show you guys that it was a bad unboxing, because spoiler alert, it was. I was having a really hard day that day. Like I honestly had been having like a really bad week. There was just like a week a couple months ago at this point when I had purchased Luna where I was really not feeling good in the head. Like the mental health was not mental healthing, and the bad review, like it did not help. It was kind of the cherry on top. And so the reason I didn't post it wasn't because it was a bad review, because like y'all know I'm not really shy to be like, hey, this doll did not turn out how I wanted it to. But it was more so that I like couldn't even get it together for the end because I was so upset. So yeah, not good vibes. The gimmick was okay, but ultimately, like, so like I know all of the pixelings have like somewhat of a waist issue. This one really had a lot of a waist issue. Confetti exploded everywhere, which I wasn't prepared for ahead of time because like I always say this when I do my unboxings, I don't like to watch other people unbox the doll beforehand so that I can give you like just my opinion. So that was irritating to have to clean up. And then the doll like wasn't as quality as I was hoping. And it was just like a whole mess essentially. So yeah, Luna's unboxing experience, very, very, very bad. Definitely had some negative feelings associated with that. And then looking at Skylar and being like, wow, this doll is even less cute. Because, like, I think Luna's cute. She's definitely not the quality that I was hoping for. But, like, to pair that quality then with a doll whose design I don't think looks as good. Plus, these were originally $60. Like, it's so expensive and it's not worth it at all. In general, yeah. In short, I have ranted a lot about that. The Pixeling Supremes dolls were a big letdown for me, and I do think that Skylar is the one that looks the least exciting. So all of them kind of in spirit are in ninth place here, but she's the one who takes the cake, unfortunately. Coming in at eighth place for me is going to be the second Barbie fashion model collector doll. I just really am not a fan of this one. I have said before, like this kind of more vintage style Barbie face mold is not my favorite. And the dress I just think is somehow awful and also boring at the same time. Like, we all know a lot of collectors are getting sick of the mermaid dresses, and we have a mermaid dress here, so that's not helping her case. Just like the silhouette itself is setting her off to kind of a bad start. I will say I like the way that the mermaid skirt like lays. I think that's kind of interesting with like the pink and the black. But the pink off the shoulder velvet moment is just not working for me, and that sucks because I'm a huge fan of velvet. But every time I see this, it honestly looks, because I have like scrunchies that are velvet material, and every time I see this doll, to me, it looks like someone just put a pink velvet scrunchie around her shoulders. Like, it just looks heavy and awkward, and it doesn't, to me, feel very intentional. The bulky gloves right next to it aren't helping. I actually think the gloves are really cool in concept. Like, it's an interesting idea to have like more of a loose fitting bulky glove instead of like a tight one. That could be a cool idea, but when you pair it with the scrunchie, it just feels really awkward to me. So yeah, somehow she's underwhelming and also upsetting all at the same time. Definitely not a fan. Had to be on the list. Seventh place is going to go to the Fang Club Operetta doll. I have made no secret throughout the year since this doll has come out that I am really not a big fan, and I don't want to like go over everything all over again because I feel like that's probably getting boring and repetitive to y'all. I did do a whole video on her as well, talking about why I dislike her. I just think Operetta is a really cool character who has an extremely distinctive style, and this doll in no way like did that to the utmost. You know, like this, she just feels like she could have been so much more. Like the rockabilly aesthetic has so much potential, and I'm just disappointed with how this came out. So yeah, not a fan. Next up, we have the Always Brats Jade doll, which I think maybe came out like right at the beginning of the year. There might have been some overlap where she was like found in certain places technically in 2023, but I'm calling this a 2024 release. And yeah, did not like this one. I just feel, I've said this also a lot, so I am sorry if I am being repetitive, but I just feel as though she looks very unintentional. She's got a lot of different elements of different styles going on there. Like the fishnet feels like a very different style from the rain boots, from the lumberjack jacket, and from the preppy sweater that she's got going on. But none of it feels like it's an intentional like clashing of styles, and it feels like it's supposed to be experimental. To me, it just looks like a hot mess. Yeah, not a fan of this one, which hurts because historically I have loved Jade's dolls. Like, she's one of my favorite Bratz characters, but they did my girl dirty here. And the dubious honor of starting off the top 5 worst dolls of the year goes to the Slime Violet doll. Also one that was quite early on in the year. This was like the first line after the like reboot rebrand of Rainbow High. And really, this just proved that someone at MGA hates Violet. I just feel I mean, I feel like a lot of people have noticed that she tends to get dolls that just like don't hit the way that we want them to. And this is definitely an example of that. I know a lot of people hated all of the slime dolls, and like, I definitely understand the critiques. I do think some of them had cute designs. Namely, I really did like the Amaya and then the Skylar. I have both of those dolls, and I do think that, like, while I do miss, the lack of slime coming with Rainbow High dolls, and I miss the wrist articulation, I like their outfits. I cannot say the same for Violet. I don't know where we lost the plot. This doesn't feel like what Violet's fashion sense was supposed to be from the get-go. I mean, she was supposed to be a fan of sparkles, and there's definitely sparkles with these oversized sequins, but it's just such a letdown. Like, this is so bad. You cannot convince me that the character that was supposed to be like glam queen, like loves looking extra and fancy and sparkly and shiny, would ever be caught dead wearing something like this. Like tying the jacket around her waist. Not that that can't be cute. Like, I'm not saying like, ew, that's always ugly. I'm just saying Violet with an iridescent jacket around her waist. I don't know. I'm not buying it. I think this is really just bad out and out. That's kind of all I can say. So, yeah, sorry, Violet, but definitely needed to be up here. The number 4 spot goes to a doll that has actually been released quite recently. She's like just barely made it into the 2024 releases, and pity for her because now she's quite high up on this list. It is going out Chloe. I did recently rant about this in a Dolls I Don't Want video, and I'm fully ready to do it again. I think all of the things that I said about Always Bratz Jade can also apply to this Chloe, in the sense that it just looks mismatched in a very unintentional way. It doesn't look like she's being creative. It looks like she's a disaster. I hate the material of her pants. Like, there's just not a lot of good going on with this doll. I'm so sorry. Like, if y'all love her, that's fine. Some of you guys were like defending her in the comments of that video, and like, that's chill. As always, if you like something, I'm happy that you're happy, because like, it's just a doll. It's okay if you don't like feel the same way that I do. But for me, you're never going to be able to convince me that this doll is pretty. I'm so sorry. I do not like her. Another fairly recent release is going to be taking the 3rd spot, and that is the Creative Crystals Amaya from Rainbow High. Good God. I honestly think that like most of this line could be included somewhere on this list. So she's another one that like I'm focusing on Amaya, but she is kind of representative of the line as a whole. I don't think this was a good line. I don't think that a line where resin is a huge gimmick is like a great idea to be marketing to young children. And then on top of that, Amaya, I think, is also just like not hitting in this one. And I say this quite frequently because it just like comes up, 'cause MGA releases a weird amount of Amaya dolls. I'm not an Amaya hater. I know so many people are, and like, that's fine. I get it, whatever. I'm not automatically opposed to any Amaya doll, but good God, they did not do her justice with this one. The like random unicorn horn like headset situation, I don't even know what that's supposed to be. I don't know. It's not working for me. I don't quite understand what they were going for with the sweatshirt. Like, on the one hand, I sort of appreciate the inclusion of actual chains because at least there's some quality, or like at least the illusion of quality there. But the actual design, I just don't understand. I feel like if you were going to allocate the budget to have some of those chains, first of all, I think you should have given her a fucking fabric skirt instead of spending the money on real chains. But second of all, even if you were going to utilize real chains in this design, there's got to be a better way, right? Like, there's got to be a more interesting way to do this. And then, yeah, the plastic skirt. She's not the only one in the line to have a plastic skirt, but we're talking about Maya specifically here. Like, it's just so sad to see. The shoes are nothing special. This is just not a good doll to me. Like, it's just not, flat out. And looking at her makes me sad. So that's why she's on the list. Now, the top 2 dolls on this list, technically speaking, are both like lines rather than dolls, which, like, I understand maybe is breaking the rules of top 10 lists, but we're here, and it was so hard to pick just one. So second place is you know, in spirit, going to all of the LOL Tweens costume surprise dolls. We're using Aya Cherry as the like example photo here. I just think this is so rough, and it sucks because I think that the Tweens were such an excellent doll line. Like some of the earlier lines of Tweens were so interesting and so cool, so high quality, especially at such a small scale. Like it is really hard to pack that amount of detail and that amount of quality into a very small scale doll like that, just because you have less space to work with and you don't want the design to feel like over cluttered. You don't want anything to feel bulky and awkward. Like the good LOL Tweens were so good. It's like shocking. And then this is what we're getting now. It's so bad. I do think that like the costume inflatable thing is like at least somewhat interesting. Like it's a new sort of reveal situation, which like props for ingenuity, okay? Like I will say that props for the creativity that it takes to come up with that idea. But the actual dolls and their designs are just so rough. With this one with Aya Cherry, I didn't personally like her first like rendition, but a lot of people loved her, and I just feel like this design doesn't have any of that same like spark. It doesn't have any of the same vibes even really. Like she's called Aya Cherry, but you wouldn't be able to tell that this was Aya Cherry, I feel like, just based off of the aesthetic. Like she doesn't look like the same character. And then there's also a lot of like the plasticky pieces again, not as much detail. It's just really disappointing to see, really sad. Yeah, this one hurts my heart because I really do think that the tweens were so cool, but this is not it. And then for the top spot, what I personally think was the worst release, like not even close, of 2024, it's the existence of the Rainbow High Littles. And yes, I understand that's like a very broad statement again. I technically haven't picked one individual doll. I just think all of them are so ugly. I think it's so bad. Their entire existence to me, frankly, is just lazy. Like I talked about this recently in the like ranking of different doll tropes video that I did, or different like themes, whatever you want to call it. Little siblings can be fun. Like you can introduce a little sibling character and like that can just be a thing. It's like, oh yeah, like here's the sibling. Yay, fun, exciting. They're their own person. That's not what the Rainbow High Littles are, okay? They're marketed as being little siblings because like suddenly all of a sudden all of these characters in Rainbow High have little siblings, but like beyond that they're also all little sisters, and they're also all carbon copies of their older sisters. Like it's just so lazy and lame and unexciting, and I don't think that the designs are even cute. It's not like you shrunk down Amaya and made her adorable. What is happening with her hair? Like they're just so bad on every level to me. So disappointing. And I do want to say, like, normally when I'm making lists like this, I don't include budget dolls just because I do think that budget dolls should be kind of held to a different standard than like normal release dolls. They're aiming for a different purpose. And so I don't think that it's fair to necessarily compare and contrast them to regular dolls all the time. So, like, I understand that you could maybe make the argument that these are like budget friendly dolls. But here's the thing. Budget dolls do not have to be ugly. They do not have to look like the Rainbow High Littles. Like there are some really, really nice budget dolls out there, and these are not it. I just, like, obviously if you like these, that's wonderful. I just personally cannot comprehend a single reason to like them. So unquestionably, they are my least favorite release of the year. This one wasn't even hard. Like it was kind of difficult to compile the rest of the list and like put them in the right order. But the Rainbow High Littles were like automatically first place. Not even a question in my mind. Worst thing that came out of 2024. But yeah, that's going to conclude the video today, guys. As I said at the beginning, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on all the dolls I discussed. Do you agree with my rankings? Do you also hate these? Did I end up talking about all your faves? If so, I am sorry. I promise it's nothing personal against you. We just have different aesthetics at that point. But yeah, definitely would love to hear all of your opinions on these. I know this is like always kind of a bummer video to do, to be like, oh, that sucked and that sucked and that sucked. But the bright side is that the next video is going to be the complete opposite. We're going to talk about all of the fabulous, amazing, gorgeous dolls that came out this year. So definitely be looking forward to that. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for me today. Why did I just like stumble so hard over my words? I forgot how to talk. Definitely time to turn the camera off. With that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night, whatever it might be. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.